The invitation sat on my kitchen counter, cream cardstock with gold embossed lettering. Join us in celebrating Dr. Marcus Bennett's white coat ceremony, Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. My brother. Getting his white coat. Officially becoming a medical student after years of undergraduate pre-med excellence. At the bottom, my mother had added a handwritten note. Please try to look presentable, Cassie. This is Marcus's day. Don't make it about your health issues. I was sitting at the table, my hands shaking as I held the invitation, when another wave of pain hit. Sharp, stabbing, radiating from my abdomen through my entire core. I gripped the edge of the table, breathing through it, waiting for it to pass. Endometriosis. Stage 4. Severe. With complications that had my gynecologist talking quietly about quality of life and pain management rather than cures. But my family didn't believe in invisible illnesses. You look fine, my father had said last month when I'd canceled Sunday dinner because I couldn't get out of bed. Dr. Thomas Bennett, chief of emergency medicine, couldn't understand pain he couldn't see on an X-ray. Real patients look sick, my mother had added. Dr. Sarah Bennett, chief of internal medicine, had spent 30 years diagnosing visible diseases. A daughter who appeared healthy but claimed debilitating pain didn't fit her diagnostic criteria. And Marcus, brilliant, accomplished, insufferable Marcus, had been the worst. You're just looking for attention, he told me at Christmas when I'd mentioned needing surgery. Stage 4 sounds dramatic, but endometriosis isn't even fatal. Stop acting like you're dying. I looked at the invitation again. Marcus's big day. The day he officially joined the medical profession my parents had dominated for decades. I should skip it. Save myself the humiliation of attending while sick, of being dismissed, of having my chronic illness treated as a character flaw. But something stubborn in me refused. I texted back, I'll be there. The white coat ceremony was held at Johns Hopkins' historic Turner Auditorium. 300 medical students and their families packed the space. Everyone dressed formally, everyone buzzing with excitement. I arrived wearing a loose dress that hid the bloating, makeup that concealed the pain-induced pallor, and a smile that took every ounce of energy I had. My mother spotted me immediately, her face tightening with disapproval. Cassie. You came. Of course. It's Marcus's big day. Yes, well. She looked me over critically. You look tired. Are you sleeping enough? I'm managing. My father joined us, distinguished in his suit. Cassie. Good to see you, vertical. He laughed at his own joke. How's the phantom pain situation? Not phantom. Very real endometriosis. Right. The lady problem. He waved dismissively. Your mother and I have been discussing it. We think you might benefit from seeing a psychiatrist. Chronic pain is often psychological. It's not psychological, Dad. I have tissue growing where it shouldn't be. Adhesions. Lesions. Multiple surgeons have confirmed. Surgeons will always recommend surgery, he interrupted. It's how they make money. But honestly, Cassie, if you were really as sick as you claim, you'd look worse. Real patients have visible symptoms. Marcus appeared, radiant in his crisp white shirt, ready for his white coat. Cassie. Wow, you actually left the house. Feeling better. Not really, but I wanted to be here. That's sweet. Just try not to make this about you, okay? I know you like attention for your condition. He made air quotes. But today is kind of my day. Before I could respond, someone called his name. He disappeared into the crowd of students, leaving me with my parents. Cassie, my mother said quietly, we appreciate you coming. But if you start feeling unwell, please just leave discreetly. We don't want any scenes. I bit back a response and found my seat. The ceremony began with speeches from the dean, the student body president, faculty members. Then came the actual white coat presentation. Each student called individually to receive their coat and recite the Hippocratic Oath. The physician giving the keynote address was Dr. Helen Park, professor of internal medicine and renowned endometriosis specialist. I recognized her name from my research into specialists, though I'd never been able to get an appointment with her. She spoke about the privilege of becoming a doctor, the responsibility of truly seeing patients, of listening beyond visible symptoms. Medicine is not just about treating what we can see, she said. The most dangerous failures in medicine come from dismissing patient complaints because they don't fit our expectations. Because the patient doesn't look sick enough. Something about her tone made me pay closer attention. "I want to share a case study with you," Dr. Park continued. "A patient I recently reviewed in consultation. 29 years old. Stage 4 endometriosis with severe adhesions, bowel involvement and suspected bladder infiltration." My stomach dropped. Those were my exact complications. This patient has been in chronic pain for 8 years. She's undergone 4 surgeries. Her quality of life is severely compromised. And yet her own family, including 2 physician parents, have dismissed her condition as exaggerated, as attention-seeking, because she doesn't look sick enough. The auditorium had gone very quiet. "This patient," Dr. Park said, her voice hardening, "is actually in this room today. She came to support a family member despite being in significant pain right now. Despite knowing she'd be dismissed and minimized. Despite her family's complete failure to provide the support she desperately needs." My mother grabbed my arm. "Cassie, is she talking about you?" I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Dr. Park pulled up a slide. Medical imaging my pelvis, the extensive disease clearly visible on the MRI. "This is what stage 4 endometriosis looks like. The white areas are endometrial tissue growing outside the uterus. The adhesions binding organs together. The lesions infiltrating the bowel wall." She clicked to another slide. "This patient requires extensive surgery, possibly a hysterectomy, bowel resection and bladder repair. Her pain is not psychological. It's not exaggerated. It's the result of tissue literally strangling her internal organs." Marcus had gone pale. My father's face was ashen. "But here's what makes this case particularly disturbing," Dr. Park continued. "This patient's family are all medical professionals. Her parents are chiefs of major departments. Her brother is here today receiving his white coat. And all of them have spent years telling her she's not sick enough to warrant their concern." He paused, letting that sink in. "To the students receiving white coats today, I want you to remember this case. When a patient tells you they're in pain, believe them. When symptoms aren't visible on initial examination, investigate further. And never, ever dismiss someone's suffering because they've learned to hide it well enough to function." She looked directly at my section of the auditorium. "Cassie Bennett, would you please stand?" The room spun. Every head turned toward me. I stood on shaking legs. "This is my patient," Dr. Park said. "She came here today while experiencing pain that would send most people to the emergency room. She did it because despite everything she loves her family, even when they don't love her enough to believe her." My mother was crying. My father looked like he might be sick. Dr. Park's voice gentled slightly. "Cassie, I know we haven't formally met, but I've reviewed your complete medical history at the request of your gynecologist, Dr. Morrison. She's been trying to get you in to see me for months, but there's been insurance issues." She clicked to another slide. "A treatment plan, detailed and comprehensive. I'm recommending immediate surgery. Not because it will cure you, endometriosis is chronic and incurable, but because at this stage the disease is compromising your organ function. Without intervention, you're at risk of bowel obstruction, kidney damage and other serious complications." "How serious?" someone asked. Marcus. His voice small and frightened. "Life-threatening if left untreated," Dr. Park said bluntly. "This isn't cosmetic. This isn't optional. This is a patient with a disease severe enough that delaying care could result in permanent damage or death." The word hung in the air. Death. "But she looks fine," my father called out, his voice desperate. "She's standing there looking perfectly healthy." "Dr. Bennett." Dr. Park's voice was ice. "Chronic illness patients often look fine because they've learned to hide their suffering. They've learned that showing pain gets them labeled as dramatic or attention-seeking. Cassie has become an expert at concealing agony because her own medical professional family taught her that visible suffering was the only kind worth acknowledging." She clicked to the final slide. A photo taken without my knowledge of me in the parking lot before the ceremony. In it, I was bent over my car, face contorted in pain, clearly struggling just to walk to the building. "This is what your daughter looked like 15 minutes before this ceremony. This is what you choose not to see." The rest of the ceremony was a blur. Marcus received his white coat in silence. The students recited their oaths. Families took photos. I stayed in my seat, unable to move, while around me the whispers built to a roar. When it ended, Dr. Park approached me directly. Cassie, I'm sorry for ambushing you like that. But when I heard you were related to Marcus Bennett and that you'd be at his white coat ceremony, I saw an opportunity to do what your family should have done years ago: validate your suffering publicly. Thank you, I whispered. Dr. Morrison has been fighting your insurance company for weeks to get you approved to see me. I'm overriding that. You're my patient now. We'll do the surgery next month and I'll personally supervise your care. My parents appeared, both looking devastated. Dr. Park, my mother began, we had no idea. You had every opportunity to know. You're physicians. You know how to read medical files, understand imaging, comprehend disease progression. You chose not to because it was easier to dismiss than to confront your own failure. My father stepped forward. Our daughter needs surgery? Serious surgery. She's needed serious surgery for at least 2 years. Dr. Morrison has been recommending it repeatedly. But Cassie couldn't afford it on her own, and you refused to help because you didn't believe she was really sick. We thought she was exaggerating. You thought wrong. And your daughter has spent years in agony because of your arrogance. Marcus stood at the edge of our group, still in his new white coat, looking young and lost. Cassie, are you really dying? Not dying. Not yet. But without treatment my organs will fail eventually. The endometriosis is strangling my bowel, infiltrating my bladder, creating adhesions that bind everything together. It's not about pain anymore. It's about function. He started crying. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was this bad. I told you. Repeatedly. You chose not to believe me. Dr. Park handed me a card. My office will call you Monday. We'll schedule the surgery and start you on better pain management immediately. Your suffering ends now. He turned to my parents. Dr. Bennett, you should be ashamed. You violated the most fundamental principle of medicine. First, do no harm. You've been harming your daughter for years through medical neglect. She walked away, leaving my family standing in the emptying auditorium, the truth finally too large to ignore. The surgery happened 5 weeks later. 7 hours on the table. Dr. Park removed endometrial lesions from my bowel, bladder, and diaphragm. She excised adhesions that had fused my organs together. She saved my left ovary but had to remove everything else. The disease was even more extensive than the imaging showed, she told me afterward. If we'd waited another 6 months, you would have needed a full bowel resection. Your family's dismissal could have killed you. My parents were in the waiting room, both having taken time off work for the first time in years. When I woke up they were there. Cassie, my mother whispered, holding my hand. We're so sorry. We failed you so completely. Yes, you did. How do we fix this? I don't know if you can. You're both doctors. You knew how to help me and chose not to. You taught Marcus that invisible suffering doesn't count. You made me feel crazy for being in pain. My father's voice was broken. We were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. What can we do? Start by believing me. Start by understanding that just because you can't see pain doesn't mean it's not destroying someone. Start by being the doctors you're supposed to be, even when the patient is your daughter. Marcus visited every day during my recovery. He'd bring his medical textbooks and read about endometriosis, his face growing more horrified with each page. I can't believe I said those things to you, he said one afternoon. About not looking sick enough. About exaggerating. Cassie, I'm so sorry. You're in medical school now. Learn from this. When your patients tell you they're in pain, believe them. I will. I promise. 6 months post-surgery, I was finally pain-free for the first time in 8 years. Not cured, endometriosis is incurable but managed. Functional. Able to work again, to live again. My relationship with my family was still fractured. They tried, bringing food and calling regularly. But trust, once broken, didn't rebuild overnight. Dr. Park became not just my surgeon but my advocate. She wrote about my case in a medical journal, about the dangers of dismissing chronic illness in patients who don't look sick. The article went viral in medical circles. My family's failure became a teaching moment for thousands of medical students. Marcus sent me the article with a note. We're using this in our patient advocacy course. The professor specifically mentioned that this is what happens when doctors stop listening. I think about you every day in class now. About how badly we failed you. I'm going to be better. I promise. I saved the note. A year later my mother called. Cassie, I'm retiring early from my position as chief of internal medicine. Why? Because I spent 30 years treating visible diseases and dismissing invisible suffering. Because I failed my own daughter. Because I need to do better. Her voice cracked. I'm going to volunteer at a chronic illness support center. To learn. To help people like you who've been dismissed by doctors like me. That's good, Mom. It doesn't fix what we did to you. But maybe it helps someone else's daughter. My brother graduated medical school 4 years later. At his graduation he gave a speech about the patient who changed his understanding of medicine before he'd even started. My sister taught me that the sickest patients are often the ones who've learned to hide their suffering best, he said. That pain we can't see is still real. That dismissing patient complaints can be fatal. And that being a good doctor means believing people even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable. I was in the audience, healthy enough now to attend to celebrate. After the ceremony he found me. Thank you for not giving up on me. On us. We didn't deserve your forgiveness. You're right. You didn't. But you earned a chance to do better. I will. Every patient, every day. I'll remember you and do better. He kept that promise. And slowly, painfully we rebuilt something new. Not the family we'd been. That was gone, destroyed by years of medical dismissal. But maybe something better. Something built on belief instead of visibility. On listening instead of dismissing. On the understanding that the sickest patients are often the ones who've learned to smile through the pain. Because that's what survival looks like when no one believes you're sick. And I'd survived. Despite everything. I'd survived.